How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, March 24th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to preview the Sweet 16 round for the 2022 men's college basketball bracket. After last weekend, within last weekend, we were able to see 48 teams get eliminated over the first and second round. And even if you count the Final Four, 52 teams have been eliminated since the beginning of this tournament. And now there are 16 teams left to compete it out as the winner of the 2022 tournament. Simply only has 4 more games left to win from this moment on. But from here on out, it gets tougher and tougher with each game. Of course, there are going to be 4 games today, as by the end of today, there are going to be 12 teams, and then the other 4 games are going to be tomorrow to decide who's going to be playing in the Elite Eight. And once we make it through tomorrow, we'll be at the midway point of this bracket. And then once we make it through Sunday, we will have 4 teams left competing, but I will do a preview for the Elite Eight once we make it to the Elite Eight. But I'm going to use this episode to preview the 8 matchups of how we got here before we look at the 8 teams that will advance through. So I'm going to look through each bracket and give a sense of how each team got here. First, I'm going to start with Gonzaga, the very first team that's going to be playing their Sweet 16 game. They're going to be playing against 4-seed Arkansas in the Chase Center in San Francisco. This game will be played at 7:09 today on CBS. Looking at how first seed Gonzaga will go on to make it here. In their very first matchup in the West region, they ended up beating 16 seed Georgia State. They would, of course, win this game by 21 after they were led in scoring by their starting forward, Drew Timme. Timme would score 32 points and add 13 rebounds, as their other big man, Chet Holmgren, would finish with 19 points, 17 rebounds, even had 5 assists and 7 blocks. Once Gonzaga would make it through this first round, they would face off against 9-seed Memphis in the second round. Against Memphis in the second round last week, they would end up beating them by 4. As in this matchup, they were led by Drew Timme again. Drew Timme finished with 25 points and 14 rebounds. Andrew Nembhard would step up big for them as he finished with 23 points, and he also had 5 assists as he would go on to play all 5. He would go on to play all 40 minutes of this matchup. So that's how first seed Gonzaga would make it here. Looking at how 4-seed Arkansas would make it here, Arkansas would, of course, make it here after they ended up losing in the SEC tournament. But once they made it into this tournament itself, they would go on to beat 13-seed Vermont in the very first game. They won by 4. In this very first game, they would go on to be led in scoring by Stanley Umude, who had 20 points and 19 boards. And then in their second round matchup, they would go on and face off against 12-seed New Mexico State. They would go on to win this game by 5 after they would be led in scoring by JD Notae. JD Notae would finish with 18 points and 8 steals for the day as he fouled out in the 31 minutes he played to get Arkansas to this game. And just like I said, this matchup is going to be taking place today in the Chase Center. The winner of this matchup will face off against the winner between 2-seed Duke and 3-seed Texas Tech. This matchup, of course, will be today at 9:39. Looking at how both of these teams got here, 2nd seed Duke, representing my alma mater, made it here out of the ACC. In their first matchup of this tournament, they would beat 15-seed Cal State Fullerton by 17 points. They won 78-61 after they were led in scoring by their freshman forward, Paolo Banchero. Banchero finished with 17 points and 10 rebounds in this game. In their very second matchup, they would end up beating 7-seed Michigan State. In this matchup, they would beat Michigan State by 9. This matchup would actually be a very big win for Duke, as in this matchup, they were led in scoring by Paolo Banchero again. Banchero would finish with 19 points and 7 rebounds to help Duke pick up this win. So that is, of course, how Duke would make it here. Looking now at how Texas Tech would make it here, Texas Tech would go on to make it into this tournament as a 3-seed. So as a 3-seed, at their very first matchup within the West region would be against 14-seed Montana State. In their very first game of the tournament, they would beat 14-seed Montana State by they would go on to beat Montana State by 35 points. This coming after they had won the Big 12 championship this year. Their forward, Bryson Williams, and of course their guard, Terrence Shannon Jr., would each finish with 20 points to get Texas Tech to the second round. Once they made it to the second round, they would beat play-in team Notre Dame by 6. They won it 59-53. And looking at how Texas Tech would be playing in their second round, they would be led in scoring by their forward, their transfer from Oral Roberts, Kevin O'Banner. He finished with 15 points and 15 rebounds. So, of course, that is how Texas Tech made it here. And the winners so of course, Texas Tech and Duke and in Gonzaga, Arkansas are going to be the 2 games in San Francisco today. The winner of both of these games will face off against one another in the Elite Eight. Looking across this schedule at the other matchups that are going to be taking place today, the other 1 seed that is going to be playing today will be the 1 seed Arizona Wildcats out of the South region. After having the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Benedict Mathurin, and of course winning the ACC title for the year, the first seed Arizona Wildcats would make it into this round, or at least the Sweet 16 round, through the first weekend after they beat 16 seed Wright State in the very first round, one of the play-in teams. In that first matchup versus Wright State, they would beat them by 17 after they were led in scoring by their starting guard, Benedict Mathurin, the Pac-12 Player of the Year, as he had 18 points. Even Christian Coloco, their center, had 17 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 blocks in that span. In Arizona's second matchup, they would go on to beat 9 seed TCU. They would win this game by 5 after this game was a lot closer than they really wanted to be. Benedict Mathurin and Christian Coloco would end up coming up big for the Wildcats. Coloco had 28 points and 12 rebounds. Mathurin had 30 points and 8 rebounds within that span, or at least within the game itself. So that is how Arizona would make it all the way to this round. And of course, within this matchup, they're going to have to face off against the 5 seed Houston Cougars, as the Houston Cougars are the only team that has made it this far out of the American Conference. The Houston Cougars would make it into this round. Once they did, they would end up beating 12 seed UAB by 14 in the first round. They would win 82-68 particularly, and looking at how they were fared, at least within the box score, they were led in scoring by their guard, Kyler Edwards. Kyler Edwards would go on to finish with 25 points and 7 rebounds within that span. Once Houston made it to the second round, they would end up beating 4 seed Illinois 68-53. They won this game by 15 after they were led in scoring by their starting guard, Taze Moore. He finished with 21 points and 7 rebounds, as well as 2 steals within that span. With this win, the Houston Cougars are able to face off now against the top seed within their bracket. Their matchup will be on TBS tonight at 10 o'clock, as it will be in San Antonio, Texas. However, the game that's going to be on right before that will be the 2-11 matchup within the South, as 2 seed Villanova will face off against 11 seed Michigan. Taking a look now at how both of these teams made it, looking first at Villanova. After Villanova won the Big East this year, coming into the tournament, they would face off first against the 15 seed Delaware Blue Hens. Villanova won this first game by 20. They won it 80-60 after they were led in scoring by their starting guard, Justin Moore. He finished with 21 points and 6 assists within that span. In the second round, Villanova would beat 7 seed Ohio State. They won by 10 in this game. They won 71-61. In this particular matchup, they were led in scoring by their starting guard, the Big East Player of the Year, Colin Gillespie. He had 20 points as he shot perfect from the foul line on the day. And then looking at Villanova's opponent, the 11 seed Michigan Wolverines, as the Wolverines came out of the Big Ten, and they're the only big team that is going to be playing today. They were able to pull off their first round win versus the 6 seed Colorado State Rams. They won this matchup by 12 after they were led in scoring as a team by their starting center, Hunter Dickinson. Dickinson finished with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 blocks in the first round to get Michigan into that second round. Once Michigan made it into the second round, they would end up beating 3 seed Tennessee. They won by 8 points in this matchup, as Tennessee was the team that won the SEC this year. Michigan was led in scoring in the second game game by Hunter Dickinson. He had 27 points and 11 rebounds in 38 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field and 3 for 5 from 3. Eli Brooks finished with 23 points and 5 assists for himself to get Michigan all the way this far. And Michigan will face off against Villanova at 7:29 tonight on TBS. So, of course, those are going to be the first 4 matchups. And looking once again at this division in the South, the winner of 2 seed Villanova and 11 seed Michigan will face off against the winner between 1 seed Arizona and 5 seed Houston in San Antonio, as this Elite A game would take place on Saturday. Now taking a look at the Sweet 16 games that are going to be taking place tomorrow. Looking at the Midwest, continuing on with the last remaining 1 seed in the tournament. The 1 seed Kansas Jayhawks are going to face off against the 4 seed Providence Friars in the Midwest region Sweet 16. Taking a look first at how the 1 seed Jayhawks were able to make it here. After not winning the Big 12 tournament, Kansas would go on into the Sweet 16 tournament and win their very first matchup against 16 seed play-in team Texas Southern. Kansas would beat Texas Southern 83-56. In this matchup, they were led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Remy Martin, as Martin had 15 points and a couple of steals. Once Kansas would make it to the second round of this tournament, they would beat 9 seed Creighton. They would win it by 7, as Creighton actually pushed Kansas to the end. Kansas would be led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Remy Martin, again, as Martin had 20 points and 7 rebounds. Their starting forward, Jalen Wilson, had 14 points and 14 rebounds. So that is how Kansas would get through their first weekend. And taking a look at who they're going to be facing off against, the 4th seed Providence Friars are coming into this matchup, as Providence would win their first matchup against 13 seed South Dakota State after coming out of the Big East with the best regular season record. In their very first matchup versus 13 seed South Dakota State, Providence would win this game by 6. They would win this game by 9. They won it 66-56 after they were led in scoring by their starting forward Noah Horchler and their starting guard Al Durham, as they each had 13 points. Once Providence made it to the second round, they would end up beating 12 seed Richmond by 28 points. As in this matchup last weekend, they were led in scoring by their starting forward Noah Horchler. Horchler had 16 points and 14 rebounds to get the Providence Friars at least this far. Their matchup is going to be tomorrow against Kansas. It's going to be the second game of the day. It's going to be at 7:29 on TBS. This matchup is going to be in Chicago. Looking at the other matchup that's going to be in the Midwest, it'll be the last matchup of the day on TBS. The 10 seed Miami Hurricanes out of the ACC are going to face off against the 11 seed Iowa State Cyclones out of the Big 12. Looking at how 10 seed Miami would make it here out of the ACC. In their first matchup of the tournament, they would face off and beat the 7 seed USC Trojans off of a pair of late game free throws. In this first matchup, they were led in scoring by their starting guard Isaiah Wong. He finished with 22 points as he fouled out in 24 minutes. And then in Miami's second matchup, they would beat the 2nd seed Auburn Tigers by 18 points. They won 79-61 after they were led in scoring by Isaiah Wong again. Wong had 21 points and 6 rebounds. One of their other starting guards, Cam McGusty, would finish with 20 points and 6 rebounds as well as 4 steals. So that is how 10 seed Miami would make it to this round. And then, of course, looking at Miami's opponent for the day, the 11 seed Iowa State Cyclones, looking at how Iowa State would make it here after finishing with a losing record within their conference in the regular season. They would face off against the 6 seed LSU Tigers in the first weekend. These matchups were taking place in Milwaukee. In their first matchup versus LSU, they would beat the Tigers by 5 after they were led in scoring by their starting guard, Tyrese Hunter. Hunter finished with 23 points and 5 steals in Game 1. In Iowa State's second matchup of the tournament, they would end up beating the 3 seed Wisconsin Badgers. They won this game by 5 as well. They won it 54-49. In their second matchup, they were led in scoring by their starting guard, Gabe Kalscheur. He finished with 22 points and 2 steals as Iowa State was able to make it into this round. So Iowa State is going to be facing off against 10 seed Miami. This matchup will be in Chicago at 9:59, as the winner of this matchup will face off against the winner between 1 seed Kansas and 4 seed Providence. And then last but not least, looking into the East region of this bracket, looking at the earlier game and looking at the highest seed remaining, the 3 seed Purdue Boilermakers are going to face off against the 15 seed St. Peter's Peacocks. This matchup will be taking place tomorrow at 7:09. It will be the first matchup tomorrow. Looking first at how 3rd seed Purdue was able to make it here after finishing with the third best Big Ten regular season record. They would win their first game in this tournament against 14 seed Yale out of the Ivy League. Purdue won this game by 22 after they were led in scoring by their starting guard Jaden Ivey out of South Bend. Ivy finished with 22 points and 2 steals to make it into the second round. Once Purdue made it into the second round, they would end up beating the 6 seed Texas Longhorns by 10. They would go on to win this matchup after they were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Travion Williams. Travion Williams finished with 22 points and 7 rebounds to get Purdue to this matchup right here. So now they will be faced off against a 15 seed St. Peter's Peacocks team that has really kind of made a Cinderella story for themselves within this tournament. Taking a look at how St. Peter's would make it here off of their MAAC season after beating Iona, or after winning that conference tournament. In their first matchup, they would beat the 2 seed Kentucky Wildcats and shake everyone's bracket. They won this game by 6 in overtime as they were led in scoring by their starting guard, Daryl Banks. He would go on to finish with 27 points on the day, as even their guard off the bench, Doug Eddard, finished with 20 points in 25 minutes. In St. Peter's' second matchup, they would face off against the 7 seed Murray State Racers. They would go on to beat Murray State by 10 in the second round. They won 70-60. As in Game 2, the Peacocks were led in scoring by their starting forward, Casey Ndefo. He finished with 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 blocks in the 33 minutes he played. He shot 5 for 10 from the field and 7 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the 15 seed St. Peter's Peacocks they are now facing off in this matchup against the 3 seed Purdue Boilermakers. This matchup will be taking place at 7:09 tomorrow, as the winner of this matchup will be facing off against the winner between UCLA and UNC. Not to mention that this game will be played in Philadelphia tomorrow. Looking at the second game that's going to be played in Philly, the 4th seed UCLA Bruins out of the Pac-12 are going to be facing off against the 8 seed UNC Tar Heels. Taking a look at how both of these teams got here. First, looking at 4 seed UCLA. Coming out of the Pac-12, UCLA would win their first matchup of the tournament against 13 seed Akron. UCLA would win this particular matchup by 4 after they were led in scoring by their starting guard Tiger Campbell. Campbell finished with 16 points and 5 assists in the 38 minutes he played. Once UCLA won this first matchup, they would advance to the second round, and to get out of the weekend, they would end up beating 5th seed St. Mary's by about 16 points. And in this matchup, UCLA would go on to be led in scoring by their starting guard Tiger Campbell again, as he had 16 points in 32 minutes as he shot a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. So that is how 4th seed UCLA was able to make it into this matchup, and this game will be at 9:39 tomorrow. The winner of this matchup in Philly will face off against the winner between 3rd seed Purdue and 15 seed St. Peter's. That's going to be happening in Philly right before that. And once all 8 of these Sweet 16 matchups are done, I will come back to you in a couple of days for the 8 winners who are going to be facing off in the next 4 matchups of the Elite 8. So until then, I want to thank everyone once again for listening to this piece. I really do hope all is well. And once both these days are done, I'll come back with a preview for the Elite 8. And of course, tomorrow on Friday, March 25th, I will come back with a preview for the Sweet 16 round of the NCAA women's round, as of course the men's bracket is about 1 day ahead of the women's. With that said, I want to thank everyone once again for listening. I do hope all is well, and I will catch you with another episode of the Elite tomorrow once everything's done today. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you with more tomorrow. Peace out.